Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Liberty and watched another human colony ship get turned away from the safe zones. The ship carried 3,000 families who had traveled for 8 months to reach what they thought would be their new home. Instead, they got a message from the Galactic Council telling them to leave immediately or face military action. Jake clenched his fists as he watched the colony ship slowly turn around and head back into the dark space between stars. These people had followed every rule and filled out every form the council required. They had paid the fees and waited for approval that took 3 years to come. Now they were being told that their paperwork was invalid because of some new regulation that nobody had bothered to tell humans about. Commander Lisa Harper walked up to him with a data pad in her hands. Her face showed the same anger that Jake felt burning in his chest. She had been monitoring communications from across human space, and the news was getting worse every day. "Sir, I have the daily reports from our colonies," she said. "The Zilani hegemony just took over the mining settlement on Kepler 7. They are calling it an emergency annexation for atmospheric violations." Jake took the data pad and read the report. The Zilani claimed that humans were polluting the atmosphere by breathing too much. The settlement had been there for 15 years and followed every environmental protocol the council had ever written. The real reason was that the miners had found rare earth deposits that the Zilani wanted for themselves. "What happened to the colonists?" Jake asked, though he already knew the answer would make him angry. "They are being relocated to asteroid mining stations in the belt," Lisa said. "Families are being separated. Children under 16 are being sent to different stations than their parents for safety reasons." Jake watched the security footage from the evacuation. Human children were crying as armed Zilani soldiers pulled them away from their mothers and fathers. The soldiers wore full environmental suits because they could not breathe the same air as humans without life support. Yet somehow they had decided that humans were the dangerous ones. Lieutenant Danny Rodriguez called out from the communications station. "Captain, we are getting similar reports from the Outer Rim colonies. The Vorthan Empire has imposed new safety taxes on all human trade ships. They are charging us triple rates because we carry hazardous biological materials." "What hazardous materials?" Jake asked. "Us, sir," Danny replied. "They classify human saliva, blood, and even dead skin cells as biological weapons. Any ship that carries human crew has to pay hazmat fees at every port." Jake felt his jaw tighten. The Vorthans were 8-foot-tall insectoids who secreted acid from their skin that could melt through metal. But somehow human biology was considered the dangerous threat that required special handling fees. The communications board lit up with another incoming message. This one came directly from Admiral Patricia Stone at Earth Command. Jake knew that calls from the Admiral meant serious trouble. He accepted the transmission, and her stern face appeared on the main screen. "Captain Morrison, I have urgent news from the Galactic Council session today," she said. "They are planning to vote on the Human Containment Protocol tomorrow." Jake had heard rumors about the protocol, but hoped it was just more council bureaucracy that would never actually happen. "What exactly does this protocol contain, Admiral?" "Complete quarantine of humanity to the Sol system," she replied. "Any human found outside our home system will be classified as a galactic criminal and subject to immediate arrest or elimination. The Council claims that humans are too psychologically unstable and biologically hazardous to be allowed free movement through civilized space." Lisa stepped forward and spoke directly to the screen. "Admiral, what about our existing colonies? We have millions of humans living outside Sol system. They will have 6 months to return to Earth or face permanent exile," Admiral Stone said. "The Council is calling it a voluntary relocation program, but we all know what it really means." Jake stared at the Admiral's face and saw the same frustration and anger that he felt. 30 years of diplomatic cooperation had bought humanity nothing but contempt and increasingly harsh restrictions. Every year brought new regulations designed to limit human expansion and growth. Every year brought new fees and taxes that only applied to human operations. "What about our trade agreements?" Danny asked. "Our shipping contracts and mining rights?" "Cancelled," the Admiral replied. "The Crystalline Collective has already announced that human vessels will be banned from using their hyperspace routes. They claim our ships emit too much electromagnetic radiation and pose a safety risk to their navigation systems." Jake knew this was a lie. Human ships were actually cleaner and more efficient than most alien designs. The real reason was that human traders were too competitive and were taking business away from alien companies. The electromagnetic radiation excuse was just a convenient way to eliminate human competition. "Admiral, what are our options?" Jake asked, though he suspected there were not many good ones. "Officially, we comply with the Council's decision and begin the withdrawal process," she said. "Unofficially, some of our ship captains might choose to interpret their orders differently." Jake understood what she was really saying. The Admiral could not officially order them to defy the Council, but she was not going to court-martial any captain who chose to protect human colonies instead of abandoning them. "Admiral, how many ships are currently outside Sol System?" Lisa asked. 47 military vessels and over 200 civilian ships," Admiral Stone replied, "plus the support infrastructure for 18 major colonies and dozens of smaller settlements." Jake did quick math in his head. That meant nearly 10 million humans would be affected by the containment protocol. 10 million people who had built lives and families in space would be forced to choose between returning to an overcrowded Earth or becoming galactic criminals. "Sir, there is something else," Dr. Kevin Walsh said as he approached from the science station. "I have been analyzing the Council's stated reasons for the protocol. Their claims about human psychological instability and biological hazards do not match any scientific evidence." "Explain," Jake said. "Every test they cite either uses flawed methodology or deliberately misinterprets the results," Dr. Walsh continued. "For example, they claim humans are too aggressive because we have higher stress hormone levels than other species. But those same hormones are what allow us to function in high-pressure situations that would incapacitate most aliens." Jake nodded. He had seen this pattern before. Every human advantage was reframed as a dangerous flaw that required Council oversight and control. Human adaptability became instability. Human endurance became recklessness. Human intelligence became unpredictability. The truth was simple. The galaxy was afraid of humanity, but not because humans were actually dangerous. They were afraid because humans could do things that other species considered impossible. Humans could survive in environments that would kill most aliens. Humans could solve problems that stumped the greatest alien minds. Humans could fight and win against odds that made other species surrender immediately. Jake looked around his bridge at the faces of his crew. These were good people who had spent their careers following orders and trying to prove that humans deserved respect. They had been patient when alien bureaucrats treated them like children. They had been polite when alien officials insulted their intelligence. They had been diplomatic when alien governments stole their property and rights. But patience and politeness had not earned humanity respect. 30 years of good behavior had only convinced the galaxy that humans were weak enough to be pushed around without consequences. Jake made a decision that would change everything. Jake Morrison called an emergency meeting in the Liberty's war room 12 hours after the Admiral's transmission ended. He had spent those hours thinking about everything that had happened to humanity over the past 30 years. Every insult, every restriction, every time aliens had treated humans like dangerous animals that needed to be caged. The senior staff gathered around the large table in the center of the room. Commander Lisa Harper sat to his right with her datapads full of fleet positions and tactical information. Dr. Kevin Walsh had brought stacks of research files that he had been quietly collecting for years. Lieutenant Colonel Maria Santos, the head of the ship's Marine unit, had her own collection of reports about human military capabilities that the galaxy preferred to ignore. Jake looked at each face around the table. These were some of Earth's best people. Scientists who had made discoveries that advanced galactic knowledge. Engineers who had solved problems that alien experts said were impossible. Soldiers who had protected alien civilians from threats that would have destroyed entire species. "I want to ask you all a simple question," Jake said. "What would happen if humanity stopped following the galaxy's rules?" Lisa pulled up a holographic display that showed human fleet positions across known space. Despite all the restrictions and containment efforts, humans had managed to establish a presence in over 60 star systems. The Liberty itself was currently 3 months away from Sol System, officially on a diplomatic mission to negotiate better trade agreements. "Sir, we have significant assets scattered throughout the galaxy," she said. "The Council assumes we will all come running home when they snap their fingers, but many of our ships and colonies are completely self-sufficient." Lieutenant Colonel Santos leaned forward and activated her own display. This one showed detailed analysis of human military capabilities compared to other galactic species. The numbers were shocking. But Jake had suspected the truth for years. "Captain, the galaxy has made a serious mistake in how they evaluate human combat effectiveness," she said. "They judge us based on our equipment and technology, but they completely ignore our biological and psychological advantages." Dr. Walsh opened one of his research files and spread the contents across the table. Documents, videos, and data recordings that painted a very different picture of humanity than what the Council wanted to believe. "I have been documenting every interaction between humans and other species for the past 5 years," he said. "The pattern is clear. What the galaxy calls human flaws are actually our greatest strengths." Jake picked up one of the reports and read through the summary. It described a mining accident on Vorthan Prime where a tunnel collapsed and trapped 12 workers underground. The Vorthon rescue teams gave up after 6 hours because the conditions were too dangerous. A single human engineer named Carl Johnson went down into the collapsed mine and brought out all 12 Vorthan workers by himself. The Vorthans classified this as reckless human behavior. Dr. Walsh explained. "They said Johnson should have waited for proper equipment and support teams. What they did not understand is that Johnson was operating well within normal human tolerance levels." Lisa pulled up another file that showed environmental data from various human colonies. The information was startling when compared to alien environmental needs. Humans were living and working in conditions that would kill most galactic species within minutes. "Look at the radiation levels on Kepler-7, she said. "The Zelani claim we were violating atmospheric safety standards, but their own safety standards would require humans to live inside sealed bunkers. We were breathing the air and working outside without any protection." Maria Santos activated a video recording from a training exercise between human and alien military units. The footage showed human Marines participating in what the aliens considered an extreme survival course. The humans were laughing and joking while alien soldiers collapsed from exhaustion and had to be carried off the field. "This was supposed to be a joint training exercise to build cooperation," she said. "Instead, it became a demonstration of why other species are afraid of us. We completed their most difficult challenges while treating them like warm-up exercises." Jake watched the video and saw something that made everything clear. The alien soldiers were not just physically weaker than humans. They were psychologically unprepared for any kind of hardship or discomfort. When faced with obstacles, they looked for rules and procedures to follow. When humans faced the same obstacles, they found creative solutions and pushed through by force of will. Dr. Walsh, explain to me again what the Council means when they call humans psychologically unstable, Jake said. "They are referring to our ability to make rapid decisions under pressure and adapt to changing circumstances," the doctor replied. "Most alien species require extensive consultation and planning before taking any significant action. Humans can assess a situation and respond immediately based on incomplete information, and this makes us unstable." To them, yes. They see our flexibility as unpredictability and our quick thinking as recklessness. What they do not understand is that these traits evolved because Earth forced humans to adapt or die. Other species evolved on stable worlds where careful planning was always possible. Jake stood up and walked to the large viewport that looked out into space. He could see the stars that represented hundreds of alien civilizations, cultures that had never faced real hardship or genuine threats to their survival, species that had never been forced to become stronger or smarter just to live another day. "What about our biological hazards?" he asked. "The Council claims human biology is dangerous to other species." Maria Santos pulled up medical reports from various first contact situations. The data showed that humans had superior immune systems, higher radiation tolerance, and better ability to process toxins than any known alien species. "Sir, what they call biological hazards are actually biological advantages," she said. "Human blood can survive in vacuum for several minutes. Human skin can withstand radiation levels that would cook most aliens. Human lungs can process atmospheric mixtures that would poison other species. The Council is not trying to protect the galaxy from dangerous humans," Dr. Walsh added. "They are trying to protect themselves from humans who make them look weak and primitive by comparison." Jake returned to his seat and looked at the faces around the table. These people had spent their careers trying to prove that humans deserved respect and equal treatment. They had followed alien rules and customs. They had been patient with alien prejudices and fears. They had worked twice as hard to achieve half the recognition that other species received automatically. What are our real capabilities if we stop holding back? Jake asked. Lisa pulled up tactical projections that she had been working on in her spare time. The numbers showed what human fleets could accomplish if they stopped worrying about alien approval and started using their actual advantages. Sir, if we use human tactics instead of trying to copy alien strategies, we could control this entire sector within 6 months, she said. Human ships are faster, more maneuverable, and more durable than anything the Council has. Our ground forces could take any alien military installation in the galaxy, Maria added. Not because we have better weapons, but because we can fight in conditions that would incapacitate their troops before the battle even started. Jake looked at all the evidence spread across the table. 30 years of human achievements that the galaxy had dismissed or ignored. 30 years of alien failures that humans had quietly fixed without taking credit. 30 years of proof that Earth had not produced dangerous monsters but had forged the ultimate survivors. The Galactic Council wanted to contain humanity because they were afraid. Not afraid that humans would destroy galactic civilization, but afraid that humans would show everyone else how weak and limited their civilization really was. Jake made his decision. The Liberty would not return to Sol system when the containment protocol passed. Instead, they would show the galaxy exactly what Deathworlders could accomplish when they stopped playing by alien rules. Signal all human vessels in this sector, he said. Tell them it is time to stop being diplomatic. The Liberty's first target was the Zilani, research station orbiting the dead moon of Epsilon Cygni. Jake? Morrison had chosen this facility specifically because intelligence reports showed it was conducting illegal experiments on captured humans. The Zilani had been taking human prisoners from various border incidents and studying them like laboratory animals. Dr. Kevin Walsh had intercepted communications from the station that made Jake's blood boil. The Zilani scientists were trying to figure out why humans could survive radiation levels that turned Zilani tissue into soup. They wanted to understand how human immune systems could fight off diseases that killed other species within hours. They were dissecting human biology to create weapons they could use against Earth. Commander Lisa Harper coordinated the approach with surgical precision. The Liberty dropped out of hyperspace just outside the station's sensor range and immediately began jamming all communications. The Zilani would not be able to call for help or warn other facilities about what was coming. Scan shows 47 Zilani personnel and 12 human prisoners, Lisa reported. The humans are being held in the lower levels in what the Zilani consider maximum security containment. Jake smiled grimly. Zilani maximum security was designed to hold Zilani criminals who had never experienced real hardship. The containment cells probably seemed like luxury hotel rooms to humans who had grown up on a planet that tried to kill them every day. Lieutenant Colonel Maria Santos prepared her assault team with equipment that would have seemed like overkill to alien observers. The Marines wore light combat armor that could withstand vacuum exposure and radiation levels that would cook most aliens alive. They carried weapons designed for fighting in harsh environments where other species could not even survive. Remember, we are not just rescuing prisoners, Jake announced over the ship's communication system. We are sending a message to the galaxy about what happens when you mess with humans. The assault began with the Liberties, engines creating an electromagnetic pulse that disabled the station's main power grid. To the Zilani, this looked like a catastrophic system failure that would make the station uninhabitable within minutes. They immediately began emergency evacuation procedures and called for rescue ships. What they did not expect was to see human soldiers moving through the damaged station like it was a minor inconvenience. Maria's Marines breached the hull and entered through sections that were now exposed to hard vacuum. They moved without life support through areas where the radiation would have killed Zilani instantly. The first Zilani scientist who encountered the assault team dropped unconscious from pure shock. His species had never evolved to deal with sudden stress or surprise. The sight of humans moving through conditions that should have been impossible triggered a biological panic response that shut down his nervous system. Maria reached the containment level and found the human prisoners. in cells that were designed to hold dangerous criminals. The Zilani had installed heavy blast doors, gravity suppressors, and atmospheric controls that could flood the cells with toxic gases. None of these measures had any effect on the human captives. "Captain Pete Miller, Earth Colonial Marines," said the senior prisoner as Maria opened his cell. "Are we glad to see you or what? How long have you been here?" Maria asked as she freed the restraints that had held him to a medical examination table. 3 months, Pete replied. "They keep running tests to figure out why we do not die when they think we should. Yesterday they exposed me to what they called lethal levels of cosmic radiation. I think I got a slight sunburn." Maria shook her head. The Zilani had been torturing humans with conditions that were barely uncomfortable by Earth standards. It was like trying to threaten a polar bear with an ice cube. While the rescue operation continued, Dr. Walsh accessed the station's research computers and downloaded every file related to human experimentation. What he found confirmed humanity's worst suspicions about alien attitudes and intentions. "Captain, you need to see this," he said over the communication link. "The Zilani have been sharing their research with the entire Galactic Council. Every major species has been studying human biology to find ways to control or eliminate us." Jake read through the files as they uploaded to the Liberty's computers. The research showed that aliens had been systematically analyzing human weaknesses for decades. They had studied human psychology to find ways to manipulate human behavior. They had tested human biology to develop weapons that would specifically target human physiology. The most disturbing discovery was a project called the Final Solution Protocol. The Council had been developing a biological weapon designed to target human DNA specifically. They planned to release it if the containment protocol failed to keep humanity under control. "Sir, we have incoming ships," Lisa announced. 3 Zilani cruisers responding to the station's distress call. Jake looked at the tactical display showing the approaching vessels. Under normal circumstances, the Liberty would have retreated to avoid an international incident. Human ships had always followed strict rules about engaging alien military forces, but these were no longer normal circumstances. "Battle stations," Jake ordered. "It is time to show them what a real Deathworld military looks like." The Zilani cruisers approached in standard formation, expecting to find pirates or raiders who would flee when faced with superior numbers. Instead, they encountered the Liberty accelerating directly toward them at speeds that should have liquefied any crew from the gravitational forces. The first cruiser fired warning shots using weapons that were designed to disable ship systems without causing casualties. The energy beams struck the Liberty's hull and accomplished exactly nothing. Human military technology was built to survive the electromagnetic storms and radiation bursts that were common near Earth's sun. Captain Ryan, Bell and the Terran Vengeance appeared from behind the station's moon and opened fire with weapons that had been designed for asteroid mining. The focused particle beams cut through Zilani hull armor like it was made of paper. Within seconds, the lead cruiser was drifting dead in space with its crew unconscious from atmospheric decompression. The second cruiser attempted to retreat, but human ships were faster and more maneuverable than anything the Zilani had ever encountered. The Liberty caught up with it in less than a minute and disabled its engines with surgical precision. The crew surrendered immediately rather than face the impossible humans who fought like demons. The third cruiser never had a chance to fight. Captain Susan Clark's destroyer emerged from hyperspace directly behind it and used an old human tactic called ramming speed. The Zilani ship crumpled like tinfoil when it was struck by a vessel that had been built to survive impacts with space debris. Traveling at relativistic speeds, Dr. Walsh began broadcasting the research files on every frequency used by the galactic communication networks. Within hours, every species in known space would know exactly what the Council had been planning for humanity. They would see the torture chambers and the biological weapons and the Final Solution Protocol. But more importantly, they would see what happened when humans finally stopped playing by alien rules. The galaxy had spent 30 years believing that humans were barely civilized primitives who needed constant supervision. Now they were learning that Earth had produced the most dangerous military force in galactic history. Jake watched the tactical display as more human ships appeared throughout the sector. The signal had gone out and humanity was responding. Captain Monica Green reported successful liberation of human prisoners from a Vorthon labor camp. Captain Tony Martinez had seized control of 3 crystalline collective trading posts that had been overcharging human merchants. The revolution had begun, and there was no stopping it now. For 30 years, humans had tried to earn respect through diplomacy and cooperation. Now they would earn it the old-fashioned way, by showing the galaxy exactly why Earth was classified as a death world. The age of human politeness was over, and the galaxy was about to learn why that was a very bad thing for everyone who had been taking advantage of human restraint. News of human military actions spread through galactic communication networks faster than wildfire. Within 24 hours, every major species had received copies of the Zilani research files that Dr. Kevin Walsh had broadcast. The galaxy was learning that their civilized council had been planning genocide while pretending to protect galactic peace and safety. Ambassador Nicole Porter sat in what had previously been the least important chair in the council chambers. For 30 years, she had been the human representative that other delegates ignored or dismissed. Alien ambassadors would talk over her during meetings and pretend she was not even present when making decisions that affected human colonies. Now she was the most important person in the room. The Vorthon ambassador was sweating through his environmental suit as he tried to explain why his empire had been operating slave labor camps filled with human prisoners. The crystalline collective representative kept changing colors in patterns that indicated extreme fear and stress. Ambassador Porter, said the council chairman, a tall being from the Altarian Federation, who had previously treated humans like dangerous children. The council would like to open negotiations regarding the recent military actions by human forces. Nicole looked around the chamber at faces that showed terror instead of the usual condescension. These aliens had spent decades believing they were dealing with primitive savages who could be controlled through bureaucracy and intimidation. The discovery that humans had been restraining themselves out of politeness rather than weakness had shattered their entire worldview. "I am listening," she said simply, using the same calm tone she had maintained through 30 years of insults and dismissals. Meanwhile, the Vorthon Empire was learning what happened when they tried to respond to human actions with conventional military force. Their high command had decided that a show of strength would intimidate the rebellious humans back into submission. They sent their most advanced battle fleet to the Kepler system, where human mining colonies had declared independence from Vorthon rule. Admiral Marcus Webb commanded the human defense force that met them in space, above Kepler 7. His fleet consisted of only 12 ships compared to the 47 vessels in the Vorthon Armada. Under normal circumstances, this would have been a massacre that ended with human surrender and the restoration of Vorthon authority. The battle lasted exactly 17 minutes and changed galactic military thinking forever. The Vorthon ships approached in classical formation, broadcasting demands for immediate surrender while targeting human vessels with weapons designed to disable rather than destroy. They still believed they were dealing with misguided colonists who would see reason when faced with overwhelming force. Captain Tony Martinez commanded the destroyer squadron known as the Hellhounds. His ships accelerated toward the Vorthon fleet at speeds that should have killed their crews from gravitational stress. The Vorthons watched in horror as human vessels maneuvered through space like fighter craft, instead of the massive warships they actually were. The first Vorthon dreadnought opened fire with its main batteries, launching energy projectiles that had never failed to penetrate enemy armor in over 200 years of Vorthon military history. The beam struck the lead human destroyer and accomplished nothing more than creating pretty light shows against hull plating that had been designed to survive solar flares. Captain Martinez responded with weapons that had originally been developed for asteroid mining operations. The focused particle beams cut through Vorthon armor like it was made of tissue paper. Within 30 seconds, the pride of the Vorthon fleet was drifting powerless with its crew unconscious from explosive decompression. The rest of the battle was not really a battle at all. It was a demonstration of why humans were the dominant predator species on a planet where everything else had tried to kill them for millions of years. Human ships moved through the Vorthon formation like sharks among minnows, disabling vessels with surgical precision while avoiding any unnecessary casualties. When the shooting stopped, 46 Vorthon warships were floating dead in space, and their crews were begging for rescue from the impossible humans who had just destroyed their entire concept of military superiority. The only Vorthon vessel still functioning was the command ship, which Admiral Webb had deliberately left intact so they could carry word back to their Empire Dr. Walsh used the aftermath of the battle to release detailed analysis of human biological and psychological capabilities to the Galactic database. The files revealed information that the Council had been suppressing for decades while secretly studying human advantages for their own purposes. Documents showed that humans were natural warriors from a planet that had tried to kill them every single day for their entire evolutionary history. While other species had evolved intelligence to avoid conflict and danger, humans had evolved intelligence specifically to win conflicts against impossible odds and survive in conditions that would destroy other life forms. The Crystalline Collective attempted to open diplomatic channels before more human military actions could affect their territory. Captain Monica Green received their communication while conducting maintenance on weapon systems that would have terrified most alien observers just to look at. We wish to negotiate the restoration of full trading rights for human vessels, the collective representative said through the communication link. We can offer immediate removal of all electromagnetic radiation restrictions and complete access to our hyperspace routes. Monica continued cleaning her sidearm while listening to the offer. The weapon was a standard human military pistol that fired projectiles capable of penetrating most alien armor. To Monica, it was basic equipment that every soldier carried. To the Crystalline being watching through the video link, it looked like a weapon of mass destruction. What about the safety taxes and hazmat fees? Monica asked without looking up from her maintenance work. Completely eliminated, the representative replied quickly. We now understand that previous safety concerns were based on incomplete information about human biology. Monica smiled. The collective had discovered that human electromagnetic emissions were not dangerous to their systems. In fact, human technology was cleaner and more efficient than their own equipment. The real reason for the restrictions had been economic competition that they could no longer afford to maintain. Jake Morrison received reports from across human space showing similar scenes playing out on dozens of worlds. Species that had spent years treating humans like dangerous animals were suddenly desperate to negotiate treaties and trade agreements. The galaxy was learning that they had not been containing a threat, but had been bullying the most capable military force in known space. Captain Susan Clark's engineering teams had taken control of entire star systems by simply demonstrating that human technology could operate in conditions where alien equipment failed completely. Her crews worked in hard vacuum without life support and repaired systems during radiation storms that would have killed alien technicians instantly. The Altarian Federation watched helplessly as their most secure facilities were accessed by human specialists who treated their maximum security measures like minor inconveniences. Computer systems that had been considered unhackable were opened by humans who approached cybersecurity from angles that alien programmers had never considered possible. Back in the council chambers, Ambassador Porter received a formal communication from Earth Command. Admiral Patricia Stone appeared on the secure channel with news that would reshape galactic politics forever. Ambassador, the Human Containment Protocol vote has been cancelled, she reported. The Council is now requesting immediate negotiations for what they are calling the Human Integration Initiative. Nicole looked around the chamber at alien delegates who were trying to hide their desperation behind diplomatic language. These beings had spent 30 years believing that humans were barely civilized primitives who needed constant supervision and control. Now they were learning that Earth had not produced monsters but had forged the ultimate survivors. The galaxy had discovered that humans were not dangerous because they were savage or primitive. Humans were dangerous because they came from a world that had made them stronger, smarter, and more adaptable than any other known species. Every challenge that would destroy other civilizations only made humanity more capable and determined. Jake Morrison received the final piece of intelligence that confirmed what he had suspected all along. The Galactic Council had never been trying to protect the galaxy from dangerous humans. They had been trying to protect themselves from the inevitable moment when the galaxy realized that Earth's Deathworlders were better at everything than the species that claimed to be civilized and advanced. That moment had finally arrived and there was no going back. 6 months after the battle at Kepler 7, Jake Morrison sat in what had once been the exclusive council chambers reserved only for the most advanced alien civilizations. The chamber had been completely redesigned to accommodate human representatives and built to human engineering standards that could support anyone in the galaxy. The transformation was symbolic of everything that had changed since humanity stopped playing by alien rules. Ambassador Nicole Porter now chaired the newly created Galactic Defense Council, a military organization that had not existed before humans demonstrated what real strength looked like. Every major species had requested human protection and leadership after seeing what happened to empires that opposed Earth's children. Commander Lisa Harper delivered her daily report from the new Joint Defense Operations Center. The facility had been built using human construction techniques that allowed it to function in conditions that would have destroyed any previous alien installation. Species that had once considered themselves technologically superior were now studying human engineering principles like students learning from master teachers. "Sir, the integration programs are exceeding all expectations," she reported. "Alien crews trained by human instructors are achieving performance levels that their own species considered impossible." Jake nodded as he reviewed the statistics. Vorthan soldiers who had been taught human combat techniques could now operate in environments that would have killed them within minutes before the training began. Crystalline collective engineers had learned to build systems that functioned reliably instead of failing whenever conditions became challenging. Dr. Kevin Walsh approached with his final comprehensive report on the transformation of galactic civilization. His research had documented every change that occurred since humans began sharing their knowledge and capabilities with other species. The results showed improvements that affected every aspect of life for billions of beings across hundreds of worlds. "Captain, the medical advances alone have been revolutionary," he said. "Human healing techniques based on our experience with injuries and diseases have extended average lifespans for most species by 30 to 50%. Jake read through the medical statistics with amazement. Human knowledge of trauma treatment, developed through millions of years of surviving on a hostile planet, had revolutionized alien healthcare. Procedures that humans considered basic first aid were saving lives that alien doctors had previously considered hopeless. Lieutenant Colonel Maria Santos joined them with reports from the new integrated defense forces. The galaxy had discovered that human military doctrine was not just more effective than alien strategies, but was actually designed to protect civilian populations instead of conquering them. This concept had been completely foreign to most alien military traditions. "Sir, we have successfully established defensive positions in all major systems," she reported. "Former enemy species are now requesting permanent human military advisors to help protect their territories." The transformation had been swift and total. Species that had spent centuries fighting each other were now cooperating under human leadership. The Vorthan Empire and Crystalline Collective had signed their first peace treaty in over 200 years after human negotiators showed them how to resolve conflicts without warfare. Jake walked to the observation deck and looked out at the space around the council station. The view showed dozens of ships from different species working together on construction projects that would have been impossible under the old system. Human engineering teams were building facilities that could support any form of life while alien. Specialists provided resources and knowledge that complemented human capabilities. The most dramatic change was in the former human containment protocol zones. These areas had become the most sought-after real estate in the galaxy, as alien families paid premium prices to live in human-designed colonies. What had once been considered a stigma was now the ultimate status symbol throughout known space. Captain Ryan Bell contacted them from the Outer Rim territories where he was overseeing the expansion of human-protected space. His fleet was working with former pirates and raiders who had discovered that human protection was more profitable than crime. The galaxy was becoming safer because humans had shown everyone that cooperation was more effective than conflict. "Admiral Morrison," he said, using Jake's new rank that had been awarded by the Grateful Council. "The frontier sectors are reporting zero hostile activity for the third consecutive month. Even the most aggressive species are requesting peaceful contact instead of raiding human settlements." Jake smiled at the irony. For 30 years, aliens had claimed that humans were too violent and unpredictable to be trusted with freedom. Now those same species were begging for human protection against threats that had terrorized the galaxy for generations. The Deathworlders had not brought violence to galactic civilization, but had instead brought the first real peace that most species had ever known. Ambassador Porter joined them on the observation deck with news from the latest council session. The formal vote had been unanimous in ways that would have been impossible under the old system, where species spent more time fighting each other than solving problems. Admiral, the Council has approved the new universal safety standards based entirely on human environmental requirements, she reported. If a facility can support human life, it can support anyone. This decision represented the complete reversal of everything the galaxy had believed about human biology. Instead of treating human needs as dangerous extremes that required special handling, alien engineers were now building everything to human standards because those standards guaranteed that any species could survive and thrive. Dr. Walsh pulled up displays showing the technological advances that had occurred since human knowledge became widely available. Alien scientists who had previously considered certain problems unsolvable were now making breakthrough discoveries by applying human problem-solving techniques to their research. The rate of scientific advancement has increased by over 300%, he reported. Species that had been stagnant for centuries are now making discoveries every day. Jake understood what had really happened. The galaxy had not just gained access to human technology and military protection. They had learned to think like humans, approaching challenges with creativity and determination instead of giving up when situations became difficult. The communication board lit up with reports from across human space. Captain Monica Green announced the successful completion of a mining operation in conditions that alien experts had declared completely impossible. Captain Susan Clark reported that her engineering teams had solved a centuries-old infrastructure problem on Vorthan Prime in less than a week. Every day brought new examples of human capabilities that continued to amaze alien observers. But more importantly, every day brought examples of alien species achieving things they had never thought possible by learning from human teachers and advisors. Jake reflected on how completely the situation had changed. Humanity had spent 30 years trying to prove they deserved respect and equal treatment in a galaxy that saw them as dangerous primitives. The effort to earn acceptance through diplomacy and compliance had failed completely. But when humans stopped trying to fit into alien civilization and instead showed the galaxy what human civilization looked like, everything changed. The species that had once feared and contained humanity were now desperate to become part of the human-led galactic community. The greatest irony was that humans had never wanted to conquer or control other species. They had only wanted to be treated with the same respect that other civilizations received automatically. When forced to choose between submission and resistance, humans had chosen to remake the galaxy according to principles of strength, cooperation, and mutual protection. Admiral Patricia Stone appeared on the main communication screen with a message that would have seemed impossible 6 months earlier. The expression on her face showed satisfaction mixed with amazement at how completely the situation had been transformed. Admiral Morrison, Earth Command has received formal requests from 47 different species asking to join the Human Federation, she announced. They want to become part of our civilization instead of just being protected by it. Jake looked around at his crew and saw the same sense of accomplishment that he felt. They had not set out to become the leaders of galactic civilization. They had simply refused to accept being treated as second-class citizens in a galaxy that owed its safety and prosperity to human protection. The Deathworlders had not destroyed alien civilization. They had shown the galaxy what real civilization looked like when it was built by people who understood that strength and compassion were not opposites, but were actually the same thing. The universe was a better place because humans had finally stopped playing nice and started playing to win.